Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a potential for another winter storm. Now I do want to say that it is still relatively far out. However, if the system were to occur, it would be pretty much occurring at the worst time of the year for it to be occurring, because Thanksgiving is, I think, the most traveled holiday. Actually, I think more than Christmas, which actually surprised me when I heard that statistic. I don't know how that holds true now, past COVID, but prior to it, that's how it was. And yes, obviously the travel disruptions, even from a small system at such a large volume of travelers, maybe a very big and a storm of decent magnitude and size, it can be very, very, very impactful. So I'll show you what the models are thinking. It's going to be occurring again kind of around that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame. It depends on where you live, as again, one storm system isn't big enough to cover the whole entire United States. So let me start showing you this. I do want to say that before we get into this video, if you guys are new to this channel and you do enjoy what I'm showing, consider subscribing, obviously. And if you are a new viewer, right, and you don't know yet if you like these videos, consider checking out my other videos and see if you do enjoy this channel. And the same thing goes with liking the video. If you do enjoy the content, please do leave a thumbs up button. It helps me. It kind of dictates what you guys like. And if you have any comments or concerns, leave them down below. I usually answer most. All right, let's start talking about this. As again, there's a lot of information I want to go over, and I don't have that much time because I do like keeping these videos relatively kind of shorter, even though, again, sometimes I often fail at that. Okay, so notice, up until really Thursday, there's not much going on. As you saw, let me just go slower because this weather model goes really, really fast. And let me show you. So we are at 6 a.m. Tuesday. So we're not, when I'm recording this, it is 6 p.m. Monday. So we're, again, 12 hours of a difference. Here's that prior winter storm that was occurring, and notice that, as I mentioned, that cold front is there, and it's definitely developed into a absolute monster. But again, it will be staying off, really off the shore, and will not be impacting the United States in a significant manner. Though southeastern Canada will be kind of getting impacted by its impacts. But our storm of interest is this little guy that's moving into the northwest at the time of again, Tuesday. So if you're watching this on Tuesday, it's moving in right there. If you're watching this on Monday, it hasn't reached the U.S. yet. And notice that out ahead of it, there is going to be a warm up. I know right now where my area is here in Chicago, the Midwest, it is relatively cool. We had our first kind of solid freeze of the year. I think it got down to like 24, 20. It might have honestly even been lower, but I do know it was honestly barely above freezing during the day. So this warm up will be kind of nice, and you can see it comes just in for Wednesday for the eastern United States. So if you live across the Midwest and Northeast, and it's Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, the busiest day, you're looking at the forecast and you're like, it's not that bad. And the thing is that it won't be, at least for the morning hours, depending on where you live. But do note that across, say, Denver, a pretty big airport, there could be some snow showers. It could be some lower kind of cloud decks, which again do impact the airplanes probably at the greatest extent. Obviously, snow would obviously as well, but even low clouds can do the same. And then notice that as we put into late Wednesday and into early Thursday, we start seeing rain develop across the central United States and into the northern United States. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on for. But again, Wednesday, I would say that, I guess it's not occurring at least on Wednesday, and that's probably the worst day. But Thursday, Friday still pretty busy day to say the least. And you can see that on on Thursday. Look at Illinois, Indiana. There's rain pretty much up and down the coast, all the way into the Midwest from Texas, Louisiana, and this is Thursday morning. And I do want to say, if you have an airport or a flight from Michigan, northern Michigan will be probably snow on into Thursday, and there will be quite a bit of chilly air, some lake effects. And now notice as we put into early Friday, this is where things really start getting dicey. So Thursday is not as high of a travel day because, again, you're staying guests, you're enjoying the Thanksgiving, being thankful, right, doing whatever you do on Thanksgiving. But on Friday is when a lot of people start coming back, and that's the kind of the second busy day of the holiday week. And this is when that system is kind of like, all right, let's start messing up people's schedules. And as I start showing you this, notice that this is still late Thursday. Thursday, and now I'll start showing you what happens into Friday. So this is now Friday 6 a.m. in the morning. This is now Friday 12 p.m. I do want to emphasize this is just one singular model where there is some disagreement with regards on how this will play out. Notice large metros, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., all seeing the rain. Again, not the worst. It'd be worse if it was snow. Still, though, definitely delays. Because of that, I wouldn't say they should be horrendous, but definitely larger than they usually would be from such a storm system as this one. And again, notice that there is snow on the backside. Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Rochester, potentially seeing some snow again. Airports there will be impacted by that. And southern Canada, large cities, Quebec, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, all of those cities are being impacted by this. And this is where things get interesting, right? Look at New York. Look at Vermont, New Hampshire, into Boston, Western Massachusetts, into Connecticut. You can see that these are pretty nasty areas of snow. And again, snow is definitely the worst, or one of the worst. Freezing rain is probably the worst, but definitely not a good precept type for airport. The good timings, right? This will cause a lot of delays. And notice that it's still raining across Boston, New York, JFK, all these large airports, Logan, getting impacted by this storm system. And again, it's 12 p.m. on Friday, so pretty much midday. Again, I do want to say that also the Northwest. You could see the kind of Washington, Oregon, southwestern Canada getting impacted by that rain. And again, the low cloud decks from that. The mountainous areas also seeing delays from kind of a separate storm, but it's there nonetheless. Notice that maybe even some snow across Minneapolis, causing some sort of disturbance. So as we put this into Friday evening, Saturday, early Saturday, look, we do see that low pressure, very stubborn. It's a full-fledged snowstorm across southern Canada. So my southern Canadian viewers, I know I have a lot, especially in this section. There will be snow, and quite a bit of it potentially on Saturday. Late Friday into Saturday. Notice the snow transitions into, rain transitions into snow across cities like potentially Boston, Worcester, maybe further west of Boston at first, maybe getting to Boston later on. And then look, this thing keeps regurgitating its precipitation. Quebec now seeing snow for several hours, starting to get the delays just because of how much that snow is piling up, right? And you can see more snow now into Maine. Any large city in Maine will get impacted, and more into Quebec, not Toronto, but Montreal, maybe Ottawa, especially Quebec. And then we do see this kind of shift off to the north, right? And that probably will be the end of it by Sunday, right? When travel kind of is wrapping up. So yes, it will be an eventful week just from this system alone. And there are a few other things there are to watch, which the GFS doesn't show, but the other models, which I'll show you in just a second, do show. So total accumulated precipitation. Let's take a look at this. So again, rainfall amounts shouldn't be too heavy, but they definitely will be there for especially the southern United States, where we do have the Gulf of Mexico moisture. Notice you do also have some moisture across the northwest that will be producing, again, potentially some travel delays and whatnot. And I do want to say that this snowstorm, right? So total snowfall, boom, right there. Look how heavy that is. That is some very, very, very heavy snowfall for the southern Canadian and into northeastern United States. Now, again, I guess it's not very heavy, but it is. It's probably the first one that's so significant for, say, Quebec. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you may be seeing over a foot of snow from that if this model were to come true. Toronto, not seeing much according to this model. Again, that could change. You can see decent snows, especially across kind of the northwest, and you can see that these snows continue piling on. You can see Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine seeing some snow. Again, Pittsburgh, large cities, Erie, Cleveland, potentially some lake effect, maybe into Detroit with some lake effect snow bands getting impacted. So it's a pretty nasty storm. And let's see what the other models are now kind of starting to show. As again, even though there's so much information to go over, and I gave you kind of this in-depth thing, that's just one weather model, and that's just one kind of perspective on it, which makes it so much more confusing, I guess. But I guess that's the whole fun of it. So again, that's that snowstorm that's occurring right now. You can see it is pushing away, and it does so pretty quickly. But again, we have that warm-up, which will be nice. I do want to show you this temperature graphic. A lot of people like when I do this, and I want to show you that again. Look at that cold air behind that first system across the east. Very, very cold, right? There's a warm-up, and it's going to be nice. Look at that. Thursday, 40s, 50s, potentially into Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, the South, even warmer, even into the 70s and maybe even 80s for potentially southern Texas. Look at that. That is definitely nice. And the Northeast northeast coast, look at that, is chilly though. That is definitely chilly. And look, right there is kind of like a knife, a cold knife, just piercing at that shallow input of very warm air. And yeah, that is very, very cold air. And you can see that the Canadian really shows 11 degrees below zero even across potentially North Dakota. And again, that does spill further south. And that's just the temperature from the Canadian. Let's take a look at its precip, which is also, I would say, equally as kind of dynamic. Again, so this is Thursday. Wednesday, again, relatively good. Maybe North Dakota, you can see getting impacted by some snow. The Canadian does show a bit of that. Or the GFS, not really. Again, we first have that rain developing across the south and some snow to the north. Again, pretty impactful, but it's Thanksgiving, so hopefully it's not the worst. But this is where things get worse. Friday becomes more active. We have rain and snow across the northwest. That's causing delays at Seattle, Oregon. Now we have rain across. Even this model shows snow as far south as Tennessee and even Georgia. Very little amounts of it, but it's there nonetheless. And again, that just might cause panic by people seeing it down there. No, I'm joking, but I mean, even a little bit of snow can cause a bit of a havoc wherever, especially if it's the first one. And notice that New York, New Jersey, Boston, Washington, all those large cities, large metros, large airports, seeing rain on Friday morning. That does transition maybe into some snow on the backside of it. But notice that across Canada, it's a pretty big system. And again, you could see it kind of pushes away, but it continues to linger for a bit. Maybe not as much as a GFS across the United States, but more across Canada. And it does so in a pretty large way. You could see it kind of swings around. And if I were to show you this, which I can't really, you would see this giant area of precip just swinging into Canada. But here's the other thing to watch. Okay, so right, we have this system, pretty decent, nothing extraordinary on its own. But then look what the Canadian does. Saturday, we see another little system brewing, a clipper. Dives through the Midwest into the Michigan, Ohio, right? It blows up in intensity. It's like a clipper. It strengthens, and look what happens. What it does here is very, very interesting. So look, it turns it into a nor'easter. Yes, look at that. A large cities, Cleveland. I mean, look at that. All of Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, even, Massachusetts, maybe even New York City seeing snow out of this. And this would still, this wouldn't be, say, Thanksgiving travel anymore. But Sunday, Monday, still busy, and it's a snowstorm nonetheless. And yeah, look at that. Boom. I mean, it really drops quite a bit of snow into portions of New England. And if you recall, the GFS doesn't show that. So that's definitely something to watch. That little disturbance that could turn into a nor'easter. And you can see there's another one that follows. Doesn't really develop into a storm, but does bring a cool shot of air and quite a bit of that lake effect. So obviously, if that system were to occur, there would be quite a bit more total snowfall, right? And again, at this point, I'm just going to call it one system, but this would be, I guess, a two distinctive snowstorm scenario, one after the other, where you could see decent amounts. I mean, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, all seeing 9-6 inches plus, and up along the northeast area corridor. I shouldn't say the coast, and that's why I didn't say it, but you can see southern Canada, also decent amounts. Toronto, maybe a foot according to this. Definitely aggressive, but it's a scenario, and let me tell you something, that the European is in more agreement with the Canadian than the GFS. So if you want that nor'easter, I guess the models are in your favor, if you will. You're in luck. So let's get timing at this. Again, most of this week, not bad. The storm system off the east moves away. We do have that warm up, but again, it does have that icy dagger behind it, and it kind of squishes it, or it makes it go away. And we do have that rain developing on Thursday across the south, the Midwest, and we do get that snowy side into Canada, and we do get that pushing towards the northeast on Friday and into Thursday. Again, lots of traveling, especially Friday. Thursday, again, maybe relatively calm. We do start seeing that snowstorm develop, right? Look at that. Southern Canadian cities, northeast getting impacted by that into Saturday, late Friday. Look, still some snow hanging around into Maine. Again, this European latches it on more than the Canadian, which kind of sweeps it out more, but a bit less than a GFS, if you will. Definitely shows some snow for the kind of the U.S. side of the border, and definitely a lot for the Canadian side, but that's what pretty much all the models have been showing. And you can see right there, boom, boom. This continues up, pivoting away. day, and eventually, it kind of pivots itself out of existence, if you will, right? But look what there we have. We have that little clipper right there, right? And that little guy, again, may potentially develop into a nor'easter, and let me show you what the European model shows with this. Look, very interesting. It doesn't strengthen it across the Great Lakes per se, as much, but it does bring some snow into, say, the DC area, and look, it takes it off the coast, right? We're getting pretty exciting, and develops it into a very, very strong system, absolutely moisture fueled, and it doesn't really hammer New York City, takes it a bit further off the coast, but it's there nonetheless, and that's a scenario that would be very impressive. We'd have to see what the exact track of that would be, but yeah, honestly, that is definitely in more agreement with the Canadian versus the GFS, which, let me remind you, the GFS, what it did with that, I don't think it even honestly showed a little clipper. It might have. Let's see what it does, because I honestly probably just overlooked it. So there's that storm system, right? You can see the GFS keeps it more towards the US. So either way, even if the European is right, then the first system less impactful, the second one more. Then the GFS, it's still the first one's more impactful, but there's just no second one. So either way you take it, it's kind of an active bet. And look, it doesn't really show a clipper. It shows something right there where you can see, but it doesn't really develop anything big out of it. Where you can see maybe something right there, but that's way up the coast, nothing of any concern. So yeah, that's quite a stark difference. I don't think that the GFS from the noontime model run did show anything either. It did show a clipper, and yeah, there wasn't really intensification from that. So definitely interesting, and we'll have to see what exactly results of that, right? The models are still in disagreement. Let's take a look at the at the total snowfall from the European model, where again, assuming that first system, you could see decent amounts of snow, especially across southern Canada, but that second one, it could definitely drop a lot of snow, especially, if it's closer towards the coast across the New England area, where, and yeah, definitely something to watch for. So again, there's that first system. You can see this model still shows a very strong first storm. Doesn't really show that second nor'easter, right? So again, you can see not all still show that. But I would say with the most recent set of data, there is more support for that nor'easter. I mean, look, there's boom, there's one right there, right? Again, around that 200-hour time frame, there's one that tries to do it right off Canada, not really. And let's take a look at this random ensemble. There's that clipper, tries to intensify, but it goes way, I guess, far offshore. And you can see it doesn't really affect the United States. Well, let's take a look at P42 with this model, around a 240. It doesn't really develop anything out of that one, but by the way, look how active it shows in the long range. Look at all these storms across the west, the northeast. A lot of activity. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, and it doesn't show a nor'easter, right? Again, there's quite a bit that don't, but look, it shows another system developing across more of the Midwest. Let's see how it shows that first system. Oh, look at that. Interesting take on that first one. Shows a bit of snow into North Carolina, Virginia. So again, there's still quite a bit of disagreement regarding that first one, let alone, I guess, the second storm. So we'll have to wait and see. A lot of, I would say, uncertainties, which is usually the case, but, there's one you can see it kind of clips the northeast, mainly into southern Canada, but once it does, it develops into a very, very strong system. Let's take a look at potentially a P15, and let's see what this one does. Again, I'm just choosing random models. Look at that. Develops that first storm much more deeper into the United States, and the clipper never really develops into nor'easter. P2. I'm showing a lot of models, but that's the best way to kind of get a handle of what may come. Develops in nor'easter, right, but it's just a bit too far offshore. Definitely an interesting scenario. Let's take a look at CTRL, which is kind of like the control, I'm assuming. And there we have that first storm, and look, there we do, and right there we have that potential nor'easter, and it definitely does form in a pretty magnificent way. So I'll stop just showing you all these random models. I do know some people, I guess, like this stuff, but I think, again, and I guess I can't really show you all of them again. I have a limited amount of time, but again, this is what I do pretty much in my free time. If you want to get a handle of, or a good idea of whether or not the model's supported or not, then you can see that some do, some don't, some kind of do with that nor'easter, and I have to take away kind of my summary from that, and you can see right there, boom, 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 that scenario would be very conducive for some sort of a nor'easter. And look at this one. It produces a lot of snow even just from that first one. So yeah, there's a lot of differences, but it looks as if a pretty nasty system can be brewing, especially, maybe even a second one. So Yeah, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I do know it was a bit long, and probably not a lot of you stayed in through the end. But I guess, it takes, if you're a weather hobbyist, it takes time to kind of go through all the weather ensembles and see what's, I guess, all the possibilities are. I want to show you how berserkly kind of active the pattern could be later on. This is just the last like 30 seconds I want to show you. Look at it. So we put this forward, and boom. We see that little system. That's the little guy. Let's not focus on that. We already talked about that. And let's take a look at what happens later on. We have these little clippers again. Maybe a nor'easter developing or whatnot. But look at the west, the northwest. First, we see a series of storms affecting the northwest. That could develop a system on kind of on its own, if you will. But then look, there's a system, a big one that just sweeps across the United States, meaning the California, right, the west. A lot of moisture. Notice how there's just pretty much moisture, pretty much floating around. We're ready to get picked up by a system, and once it does in a big way. Look at this. Boom. I mean, this would be a massive system. This is obviously very far out. I just want to show you that the models are definitely keeping their activity up. And look at that. Would be an absolute monster if that would occur. And look, we have a second one moving in. And just look at that. That's actually a monster. I mean, a monster storm. Look what it showed the model run prior, though. Look, it's remained consistent. I mean, that's consistent, right? It's very far out. Obviously, consistency will probably fall apart, which is why I'm not even, concerning to talk about this, or I'm not even considering, again, talking about this, I should say. But look at this one. This is a 6 a.m. one, and look, it's still consistently showing a system of different formation, I guess, but boom, that is a beast. I mean, obviously, a lot of these systems this far out are obviously overreacted, but again, we've been seeing these smaller little systems, right? I mean, that still could be impactful, but I think that come December, maybe, plus or minus a few days, we could be looking at an absolute invasion of snow and storms. Look at this one. Boom, that's a massive one. Boom, that's a massive one. And then boom, another one moving in, right? So, and it's just really recently that it started showing this. Yesterday, it did show systems, yeah, which actually, again, even yesterday at midnight, it was showing a storm. So I mean, that is actually more consistent than I thought, and I thought I just wanted to show you that. Look at that, it's also showing a storm. Goodness. All right, well, I guess, yeah, we have a lot of stuff to talk about in the long range once it does come through, but again, for now, we do have that northeast system. This is getting way too long, the video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something new, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.